Welcome back, everyone. This is Donna Sharp with Holistic Wellbeing. Thank you so much for joining me today on day 463 of doing these lives. I'm very delighted because I've started a new segment, and it actually is referring to building strong family households. And I'm starting off with the children in the household because they're our future. And I'm giving you insight on things that are happening right now in the real world, and just tidbits on exactly why our children grow up to be the way that they are. All right. So this is my third day of speaking with you on this. Hello, Mr. Albert. How are you? Welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for joining. If I can hit that wave button. Thanks for joining. So I started 3 days ago. I believe it's 3 days. And today is actually my third day speaking on this subject, right? And basically what I did the very first day is I spoke on I gave an overview first, and then what I'm doing now is I'm going to go into 3 whys. So for the past 2 days, I spoke on the first why, and tonight I'm going to be speaking on the second why. It doesn't make much sense to you, but I'm speaking from right now, but I'm speaking from Stephen Covey's book, The 3 Steps to a Strong Family. I'm not sure if you've read this book, but I just feel like this is important information that I need to share with you at this particular day and time. You know, God often nudges me and tells me exactly what to speak about and when. So a lot of times I have an agenda, but you know, when God steps in the way, he gives me insight and moves me in a whole different direction. Hello, La Crystal. How are you? Welcome. Thanks for joining. So he often nudges me and to do something a little bit different. Remember, I'm not on my plan. I know you've been missing the live, Mr. Albert. You are in trouble. So I'm not on my time frame. You know, I just want to really iterate. Woo! Let's try it again. I really want to reiterate that my plan is not my plan. Okay. I am on God's timing. I am served as a conduit. I was explaining to someone that there's oftentimes when I speak of something and people message me and they're like, oh my gosh, that was incredible. You're just amazing. And they're going on. And I'm thinking, you know what? That's not me. I just give all honor and praise to God. He is speaking through me and I'm just delivering the message. And I do pray that when I deliver the message, that you are all taking this the best way that you can, right? The best possible way that you can. So let me just back up and say, if you haven't been following me, I am a holistic and wellness transformational coach. And my job is utilizing my 30 plus years of experience in the field as a full personal trainer and fitness instructor for over 25 years and 3-level Qigong practitioner. I've been a manager in corporate for 15 years. I have a pretty lengthy bio. So what I'm telling you is nothing that I just grab off a chair and say, listen, this sounds good. Let me tell you about this. These are things that I've actually been through. I've encountered. I've been trained by the top and the best practitioner and masters in the world. And so the information that I'm sharing with you, it's pretty credible, I have to say, because I'm going to give credit where it's due. And that's from the individuals that I have received my training through. So I'm not going to stop learning. I never forget my massage instructor, teacher. She said, you know, she went around the room as we were closing out and leaving school. And she said, you know, I'm going to do like a little energy reading, not an energy reading because I don't believe in those things particularly, but she had a gift and she says, I'm going to just tell you guys where you stand right now in your present position. So of course, when she came around the room and she came to me, she said, Donna, when you're 80, 100 years old, you're going to be still researching and studying until the last day you're on this earth. And she is so right, because I just have a passion to make sure that I'm delivering what's right. And I'm not just delivering things to put myself out there. And I will tell you time and time again, is that I'm not here to please anyone. I'm not here to develop likes. I'm not here to develop a big crowd. I am here for whoever's going to receive the information, share it with the people in their household, and they too can benefit from it. That's my ultimate purpose. So I'm here shifting platforms tonight because I'm making a shift. I made a shift 3 days ago. And now what I'm speaking on is how to develop and build a strong family. And the reason is because you guys are in your households and you're looking at each other for the past several days. All right. And you never really saw your family members before. So now you have to learn to like them, right? Better yet, love them. So what better way to accomplish a better relationship now by just backtracking a little bit, look at the habitual things that you've been doing, look at your pattern and the things, and just ask yourself a question. Have you been the parent that you're supposed to be? Right? Have you been the spouse, the husband that you were supposed to be? Have you been the wife that you're supposed to be? Right? And when you ask those questions and you honestly answer them, you're going to get the results that you're going to see what it is that you are missing out on when you guys were exchanging children in between, right? Exchanging what should I say, chores and things in between, and you're on your way again. So now the time that you have, I'm just encouraging you to use it wisely. So what I've been speaking on is the steps. I spoke yesterday on the why. Stephen Covey speaks about 3 whys because what he's doing is segueing and leading himself up to explaining to you what it takes to create that strong household. But he's giving you some prerequisite ahead of time so you can better understand how to digest the information. So last night the night before I spoke about the first why is basically developing structure. If you didn't watch it, by the way, I would encourage you to go back and watch the last 2 lives. But he talks about developing structure, right? The 3 steps will help you to prepare your children for both the positive and the negative realities of life. And what I did was I touched on the laws. There are laws of government, there's laws of God, and there's also laws of nature. And when we understand that, we are able to develop a structure. I also spoke on the real world. What do our children encounter in the real world? They encounter sex, they encounter drugs, drugs as early as 12 years old. And, parents thinking that their children don't understand about sex. And they're like, okay, Johnny, let me sit down and talk to you about sex. And they don't realize that their children have already been out there, experienced it, and know all about it, right? So drugs and suicide and all these things that they're faced with. Explaining to them the real world, the habits, the attitudes. I covered that. The world for our children. I just spoke on how it's scary. And if we are as adults are looking on the outside and wondering what on earth are we facing right now? How are they going to fathom all of this information if we as adults can't even understand it ourselves, right? And I shared a little study with you. And then I continued to speak on the myth number 1 last night. And I covered and continued on with that by just talking about ways that children can develop best practices at home. As far as I told a story on a little girl that was 6. She got her first checkbook from her parents and she was delighted. She was like, now I feel like an adult. Oh my goodness, this is exciting. Now I can learn how to balance the checkbook. What happens if it bounces? The average children right now don't even understand some of those basic things. I spoke last night on the fact that we don't teach them what's necessary in school a lot of times. They get the basics. Yeah, they get some understanding. I'm going to give credit where credit is due. But on the flip side of it, they're going out and they're trying to develop themselves. They're trying to discover who they are and find their gift, right? And so they can't do that because now they're being told exactly what to do, what they should be, okay? In spite of the fact that they may not even have the desired gifts for that field. But because the money piece is there, I think you should be a doctor. I think you should be a nurse. Who are we to determine who they're going to be when God has already developed a gift and a plan of action for them, right? So I spoke on the child and how she got the checkbook and she was excited. But on the flip side, that, those children, when they're in high school, they're watching other children live on credit cards that their parents are giving them, which is borrowed money. And this young lady was talking about how beautiful it was because now she had her own money she can fall back on, that she is saving, that's in reserve. So she's not having this false positive that this money that I have on this credit card is all mine. Guess what? You spend all of it and you have to go back and pay it off. So what is going on? You're pedaling backwards all the time. You're never progressing ahead in life, right? So tonight I'm going to speak with you on myth number 1. I mentioned last night, not myth, but the why. I mentioned last night, I don't know if you've heard this in conversation or context before, but when you speak about a why, okay, someone asked me just this week, Donna, what keeps you moving forward, right? What motivates you? No matter what's happening, what around you, you're still moving forward. Well, I got to tell you guys that If you don't already have a why, it's time to figure one out. And if you don't know what that is, a why basically is, what is it in your life that propels you to the next level? What gives you enough strength, right, to get up every single morning and move ahead no matter what your surroundings, your environment looks like? And that's your why. And if it's strong enough, I guarantee you, you're going to keep moving forward, regardless of the setbacks, the setups, or anything that you have that's creating obstacles in your way. So find your why, okay? And then once you've identified that, then you have to establish a goal around it. So the second why that Stephen Covey talks about is basically the 3 steps will help you to keep your sanity and enjoy your children more. There are 3 steps. We're going to talk about 3 steps, right? It will help you to keep your sanity and enjoy your children more. So I'm going to tell you a little story. I'm going to read this little story to you verbatim because I want to give him credit because this is his work, okay? But I just found it very fascinating and I wanted to share it with you. So basically, we had a friend who was truly meticulous about a tenacious parent. She had 3 children whose rooms were always in order, who did what she said like privates obeying a sergeant, who took music lessons and practiced daily, and who got A's in school. But the woman was a wreck, and her stress was being passed along to her children. She took responsibility for everything. It took all day and dozens of reminders, bribes, and threats to get them to clean up, to practice to brush their teeth, and to get home on time. She felt as if everything was working against her and as if she stood alone against the world. And if she let up for a minute, everything would fall apart. So she was managing her children like soldiers in the army. Here is the flip side. Listen to what happened, okay? So this friend became a model for what we did not want to be. First of all, because we didn't have all day. That's the first reason. The second thing is because we realized that her kids weren't learning anything. She was taking all of the initiative and responsibilities in the family. How are you to manage your children if you're not giving them the rein to do it themselves? These children are going to grow up deprived because she basically manipulated the entire situation and controlled things the way she wanted it to be, right? It wasn't necessarily in their timing. It wasn't a thing where she was teaching them and then she looked back and say, listen, all right, children, let me tell you something now. You guys learned this for the past 2 weeks. Show me what you learned. What did you like? What did you not like about it? There was no interaction. There was no communication. There was just, this is how it's going to be. I want to play straight and that's it, right? So how can they expect to grow up and feel honored and just, blessed and all of that by their parents to say that, they trusted me to actually learn this on my own and develop my own character and not the character of my parents, right? So the 3 steps may sound time consuming, but they will save you time it takes to set up family laws, right? So we're talking about how do we set up that structure? How do we get grounded? And how do we get a surface of foundation? Because as I mentioned, when you're building a house, you need a foundation. You can't build a house on sand because the sand is going to collapse and there's going to be no structure, right? So it takes time to set up family laws, to establish family economy, and also to develop family traditions. And that's what she needed to understand. The benefits, here's the benefits basically of the 3 steps, right? But first, let me just say, once they put these in place, part of the initiative, incentives, responsibilities, and accountability required to keep the family going are shifted to the children, okay? So it's not her idea, but now they have full reins to be able to learn how to be accountable, take responsibility, and just learn to develop themselves before they too become adults. So basically, the 3 steps can also help you to reduce the stress level in your family by giving you frequent opportunities to acknowledge your children's good behavior. We all know how important it is to pay attention and reinforce good behavior, but in good practice, it is incredibly uncommon. Just watch families at any shopping mall and you'll see pretty much who's getting all of the attention. And it's those children that are tugging on their family and they're screaming and the parents screaming at the child and no one's in control but the child, right? So naturally, it's the kids who is misbehaving, as I just mentioned. So the basic rule Stephen Covey talks about is the ways to earn rewards, consistent family traditions you set up are part of the 3 steps, right, that will give you a chance to replace negative criticism, punishment, and tearing down with positive reinforcement, rewards, and building up. I spoke yesterday on traditions and how important that is to establish that. And it's usually done when the children are younger. A lot of times they'll take the traditions that you had in your household as the head of the household, and they'll say, you know what, mommy and daddy really did a nice little thing with maybe us hooking up a tent in the living room, and we had camp out in the living room. I think I'm going to try that with my children when I get older. I don't know. I'm just mentioning that as a suggestion. Maybe that's something you did as a child. So when you establish those traditions, they get to see what you've done. They're not going to necessarily do what you did, but they'll develop their own practice so that later on, they too can have nice, fun tradition and memories, because tradition actually develop memories so that they can look back and say, you know what, my life was built with quality, and it wasn't just about quantity, and it wasn't just about the surface and pretending to the public that we're the perfect family. We actually bonded, we had communication as a whole. So here's another story I want to tell you, and this is all falls under number 2, all right? Number 2. So number 2, why? So we told the story in a seminar. This is a seminar story that he spoke, Stephen Covey, and speeches around the country. And we've written books about it. It seems so simple, but it illustrates so much. It was a rare example of a parent actually ignoring negative behaviors and rewarding being attentive to a positive behavior. Now listen to how crazy this was. The busy mother of 3 boys were trying to have a conversation with a neighbor who had come over to borrow a book. The little 4-year-old was yelling for her attention and tugging rudely on her skirt. Mom. The mother completely ignored the boy until he became so loud that no one else could be heard. Then she casually and a matter of fact, scooped him up like a mop bucket, and without even looking at him, and while continuing her conversation with her neighbor, opened the nearest door, it was her closet, put him behind it, and closed it. Soon he came out quietly and politely. This child, listen to what he said. He said, to get his mother's attention, the time she responded, he said, excuse me. That's what he said, by the way. He said, excuse me, very softly and quietly. This is after he was placed behind the door to get his mother's attention. This time she responded. The mother ran upstairs to get the book the neighbor wanted. Her other 2 children were playing together pleasantly. Now she stopped, got down on the floor with him and said, you 2 are playing so nicely with each other and being so kind to each other. I'm so proud of you. So she just blatantly ignored that little man that had something so important to say. Hi, Tony, thank you for joining, and gave the attention to her other 2 children. But I will tell you that this child will never forget what she did. Okay, there was a better way that she could have excused herself from her neighbor, because her child should come first and say, listen, I know you're trying to borrow something right now, but I need to speak to my child. He has a question for me. Excuse me for just a minute. There are polite ways of doing things, and this parent did not. All right. So most of us have little trouble finding something to talk about at work. Have little trouble finding something to talk about at work. And I speak about this all the time. A lot of times people will treat strangers better than they treat their own self and their own family. And this should not be the case, right? So, or in civic roles or in recreation, because what we are doing with other people both requires invites communication. So when we're at work, we are so wonderful. Hi, Elena. Thank you for joining. Welcome. So when we're at work, we're always so pleasing and just pleasantly presenting ourselves to these individuals, these colleagues that we don't know. Okay, they don't go home with us, but we give them more attention than we give our own family. Our family, to most of us, look like dirt. And shame on us, because that's your blood, that's who you're brought up with. You should find ways to foster and establish great communication with your family members. So how dare us treat our family members like dirt, right? So as it says here, most have little trouble finding something to talk about at work. They'll find every single topic that there is. Now, here's the flip side. In our families, what we need to try to do is to force manage communication. And like I mentioned before, there's husband and wife that's forcing to talk to each other, right? But it's easy because they're always out of the household. So one's going east and the other one's going west. So it's all right. They come home, they see each other a very short period of time. They're just a number. They just tied a knot, hey, for some unforeseen reason. And they're just a number, right, in the whole marriage pool of this economic society. And then when they come home, like I said now, that most of you have more time than others, this is the time to now foster relationships. And you're going to look at your spouse now. You're going to look at your children. You're going to say, oh, I didn't even realize you were here. What's your name again? You look very familiar. What are you doing here? And then they start to get on each other's nerve because guess what? No one was communicating before, and now all of a sudden they are. But I will give you the positive side of that. Then you have more time, and you have the relationships bond becoming stronger, because now there is this thing called time that everyone complains about and says, I don't have time for this. I don't have time to work out. I don't have the time to figure out why he's treating me that way or she's treating me that way, right? Guess what? You now have time. So it's more time than ever now to do it. So in our families, we need to try to force or manage communication, but to do and share things together that causes us to discuss, to ask questions, to express our feelings, because we all have feelings, and you guys know you're very emotional. You make decisions based on your emotion, and you know, maybe you don't know, that that's not the correct way to do it, right? So hopefully they'll listen to you, because now you know when you go to work, everybody at work listen to you, you're talking and you're feeling good. You come home and you try to express the same thing, your family look at you like you have two heads. And then you have to force, can we just please talk? Can we just get this right? So I'm getting ready to wrap up, guys. I wanted to share the why number 2 strongly with you tonight, right? So the more you share with your children, the more you'll enjoy them. That's why open, expressive communication is so important to a strong family. And this is why the 3 steps are designed to promote it. And I will be speaking on the 3 steps as we progress. But I wanted to speak with you on the whys. I spoke with you on the first why 2 nights ago in a row. And tonight I'm speaking with you on the second why. And I'll be speaking with you on the third why tomorrow. So the bookstores are lined with magazines and books on family communication, how to talk to your children, how to get your children to talk, and what to talk about. But guess what? The first night when I opened this segment up, I explained to you guys that most of you are relying on the wrong things. This is not rocket science. I understand we don't have a book. We don't have this big billboard that said this is how you parent. I get it. But at the same token, if you can understand that you and your children aren't friends, okay? I see so many parents befriending their children. Oh, we're just girlfriends and we're going to dress the same. No. You're the parent, you're the disciplinarian, and you're supposed to take control. When you figure that piece out, then everything else will fall in line like you expect it to be. And the child won't be taking control of the conversation or the environment that you're in and embarrassing you. All right? So how you get your children to talk to you, even what to talk about. You guys don't need structure and books on that. All right? If you grow up in a nice family, chances are the parent that you had, parents, they're going to fill you with wisdom. The question is, were you listening? All right. They have sound wisdom, and oftentimes they know the right and from the wrong answer. There's basic things that you have to do throughout life. And if you're training them on those basic things, they won't grow up not knowing how to cook, how to clean, how to be polite and mannerisable around people. All right. So we don't need a book to tell us that. You don't need no kind of reinforcement for that. So I remember an article with the last title, What to Talk About to Your Children, about which suggested what parents need to that's sometimes concrete to talk about with their children, sometimes tangible, real things that have to do with the real world and how to work things like money, motivation, like politics and value. In school, if they were just soundly teaching all of these things, we wouldn't have to go and do a second motion again, but it's up to us as parents to reinforce it, to teach them how to do a basic checkbook, how to manage a business, the basic things. Because if you teach them chemistry And they're going into the world to be, I spoke about this last night, chemistry, algebra, trigonometry may have some calculations that they need to do that particular job. Maybe they're trying to be a doctor. Those numbers might be effective. But if you're doing something creative and those fields that they're studying and you're just spending all this money to study and they're not even going to use it, what is the purpose? You've just wasted money, number one. And number two, they're not developing the gifts that they were truly birthed here to actually do. So pay a little bit close attention to that, right? So here's the point I'd like to make that he's making, Stephen Covey. We don't want to talk about these things in theory, all right? We want to talk about them and practice them. One reason we develop a family legal system and economy and tradition was that they would cause us to talk together about things that we were doing, things that's relevant in this world. Okay? So guys, I know that was a mouthful. I know it was. So I wanted to go through it very quickly. Hope you are keeping up with me. But as I mentioned, if you're just joining me at the end of the live here, the new segment I'm speaking on is basically the steps to creating a strong family, and it's by Stephen Covey. As I mentioned, I'm speaking on the myth, not the myth. I keep saying the myth. There's a myth coming somewhere, guys. I'm speaking on the whys, and I told you that whatever your why is in life, if it's strong enough, you will be propelled to advance in the next level of your career, your life, and exactly where you're trying to go. So tonight I spoke on the number 2 why, all right? And tomorrow I'll be speaking on the number 3 why before I actually segment into how to build that strong family at home. Now is more time than ever that you have the freedom of time and you're looking at your children. Don't allow it to be wasted time. If you made 4 or 5 days go by and you did absolutely nothing, you didn't do something of quality, you didn't teach them something, then you're losing grounds because you can't regain time. You can't go back and say, oh, let's try to revisit yesterday, Sunday, or let's try to visit yesterday, Saturday. It doesn't work that way. Once it passed, it passed. You can't do nothing about it, right? So I would encourage you to take my live and share it with someone else in your circle that you feel can benefit from it. Because how else are they going to learn about this? I will not tag anyone in my lives because I truly believe that whoever God wants me to speak to, they will be here and they'll show up. So I'm going to encourage you, if you have someone in your circle right now that have children and family and whatever the case is, and you feel like it needs some strengthening, and you feel this information can benefit them, then by all means, share it. If you love what you heard, please love it. Don't give me the thumb. I don't like the thumb. It's so dry. I know Facebook does not allow you otherwise to do that. But I'd rather you put a comment than put a thumb. That tells me that you are engaged, you are listening actively, and you're actually taking the information and transporting it into your life and using it for a better cause and a better good. Okay. But most of all, I'm delighted to be here. This is day 463 of me doing these lives. And I've been talking straight since January 1st of 2019, and I haven't stopped. So if you guys have not learned anything by now, I don't know what to tell you. But I will continue to allow God to work through me and move through me because we are here on this world for a better cause and a better reason. And I want to make sure I give it to you and give it to you straight. I will never fluff you. I'm not going to fake you. A lot of times I will give you some vital information that you need to know. But guess what? If you're not paying attention, like with God, if you're not paying attention to when he nudges you and tells you things and shifts you in a different direction and says, listen, you are not supposed to be doing that. You're not supposed to be in this group. You are not supposed to be around those set of people. If you're not intuitively listening to the message and the whisper in your ear from what he is telling you, you will miss the purpose. I promise you. And a great example of that is the situation that we're currently in right now. So I'm going to close by telling you, do not, I repeat, do not get caught up in this whole pandemic that's going on. There is a plan. There has been a plan for many years. This is structured. This is not by chance. You will hear me sometimes saying the things that we go through in life, it's never by chance. It's not an accident, all right? And a lot of time it's deliberately done. So you need to be very intuitive and you need to pay attention because you're going to miss the message. But all I can tell you is protect your family while you're aware. And a lot of the things that I have taught you guys, the 463 days on this live, the one most important aspect of it, when you see me touching on anything nutritionally sound, all right, I did a whole segment on the herbs, and I gave you a tour of my parents' garden. When you see me touching on things that are nutritional in value, it's to help develop this temple that you have to prepare you for this whole thing that's going on right now. All right? None of this is an accident. Stay in tuned and stay cleared. Stay in the Bible, because when your body is in the right vibration, when you send praises up, God is going to send blessings down. That's not what this country wants. So stay in the right vibration, get your energy in tuned, and understand that I told you guys this time and time again, your body is a field of energy. And when you are keeping it clean and clear, and you're taking away any kind of devices that's going to pull away from that, you will keep your temple strong, and it can ward off any single thing that's surrounding you. That is all I'm going to say. You guys know I'm passionate about this. You know I'm going to be here, and I'm going to tell you the truth. Whether you love it or not, I'm not here to be liked. I'm just here to share it with you and be a conduit to serve as a good sheep and a shepherd that God wants me to be. All right. So that's all I have. I do have a webpage. It's called not Donna Sharp. I changed that. It's called Holistic Wellbeing. And when I spell whole, it's not HOLE like holistic, the traditional way. It's whole as in the whole person, because I don't deal with the body as a part. I deal with it in whole. I deal with your mind. I deal with the spirit first, the belief that I have that's in God. And the second one is my mind. And I deal with the physical body, because you know I've trained for many years. And I deal with the nutritional, what's on the inside that's going to manifest itself on the outside. So when you deal with that and you're dealing with the whole person, you're able to develop them in the right way that they need to be developed. When you piecemeal it and you take a little piece here and a little piece there, and you're not bridging the gap, you're not getting a sound system. We need a system as one to work so you have a better way to progress and move ahead in life. All right. So log on to holisticwellbeing.com. Click on the About section first and read a little bit. That's just a short bio I put on there. There's much more. I didn't want to overwhelm you and type any more on there. But it gives you an idea of why I'm so passionate about what I do. That's all I have for this evening. I look forward to your comments. I look forward to you sharing the live. And I'm going to be delighted to be back here again on day 464 as I talk about the third why and give you some more insight as to how you should pay close attention. Let me just see what the comments are you guys have, because I wasn't reading them. I do apologize. Mr. Elbert, you're going to get a beating. You can't miss the live, Mr. Elbert. You come on and say, I haven't seen you in a time. Don't tell me that, because you're telling on yourself like when you're in a classroom when you're a young person, right? But it's a pleasure to see you as always. I thank you for your support. Miss LaCrystal, I don't know if we have met before, but pray that you enjoyed the session tonight. There are many more to come. There have been many more that I've done in the past. All my lives are numbered. All of them are titled. You can go back, check out a live on the brain that I've taught in the past, on anything, food. It's there, all right? And it's all free. Go. How about that? What does Mr. Elbert say? Missing the lives, Tony. Mr. Tony, thank you for joining. Welcome. Elena, thank you so much for joining. Mr. Elbert, let's see. I like what you said. It's so relatable. Thank you, Mr. Elbert. I appreciate that. All glory goes to God. Kim, thank you for joining. You're amazing. Thank God for you. To God be the glory. Yes, sir. All right, guys, I've held you long enough, as if that wasn't enough. I love you. And if no one told you they care, I do. Feel free to message me, inbox me, and I'll be delighted to answer you. Have a fantastic evening. Ciao.